Hi, I'm your host, Anand J. Sukhadia, and this is the Limitless One podcast. Join me on this journey as I interview the most inspirational souls who are tapping into their limitless blueprint on a mental, physical, and spiritual level to thrive in uncertain times. If you feel you are so much more than just this body, just this life, and want to tap into your limitless potential, you're in the right place. Here we go, starseeds. If you possessed a money-making machine that produced limitless amounts of wealth for you 24/7, how well would you maintain this machine? What precautions and proactive measures would you take to ensure that it runs for the duration of your life? Well, we possess this exact machine, and we're going to be going limitless today. Welcome to the Limitless One podcast, everyone. I am your host, Anand J. Sukhadia. In this episode, we're going to be discussing how to optimize your most irreplaceable technology, your human body, with author and fitness trainer, Andrew Kobylarz. Andrew is a precision nutrition level 1 coach and author of How Busy People Build Healthy Eating Habits. He's been a fitness trainer at Intrepid Gym for over 10 years and has created a diet course that has helped over 3,000 students. Andrew is also a business development executive for a tech firm. He's spoken for several startups to Fortune 500 companies on how busy people can revamp their diets and fitness habits according to their lifestyle. Andrew, welcome to the podcast. How you doing, brother?
I am doing good. Thank you very much for having me on to chat about the book and chatting about how people can build some healthy eating habits and healthy habits in general.
Wonderful. Yeah, our mutual friend, actually, Steve from Spesh Hair Salon in Hoboken introduced us, and you sent me your book after the meeting, and wow, it was pretty amazing to read, and how simply you were able to explain so many complex topics. So that's why I wanted to get you on. But before we get into your story, why don't you tell me, what does living a limitless life mean to you?
Yeah. So I think, overall, I think it's abundance. I think from a health perspective, I think if you take a look at some of the most successful people besides time, they really talk about health. And then outside of that, and health also too, like physically, also mentally, right? And then I think outside of that, from a financial perspective, just to kind of own your own time, do things that interest you and explore things that interest you. I'd say that kind of sums up what a limitless life means to me.
Wonderful. And, you're also in corporate sales and you're very successful in your career, and, becoming an author is not an easy task. So what made you decide to, get into writing a book about health and, your journey through becoming a trainer and doing that for over 10 years? Why don't you get us into your story? Tell us a little bit about how you got to this place.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it happened, initially I had been interested in fitness and training and stuff like that. So actually one of my best friends, Adam, who owns Intrepid Gym, when he started it up, I was like, hey, do you think I can try out fitness training? And that's how I got into it. And then I set up a blog, which used to be Mind Your Fitness, but I started doing some rebranding on that. And then, I had a lot of friends ask me questions about working out, about diet, things like that. I love to write. And then it eventually just turned into, hey, I should probably just encapsulate all these ideas into a book and just kind of give it to everybody, something that should be, easy to kind of take away and then hopefully improve whatever they're trying to do in terms of, their diets. And then we'll keep pushing that into fitness stuff as well.
Very cool. So tell us, who is the ideal audience for this book?
So I'd say most of the people that are going to be reading this is, busy executives. They're going to be folks that are sitting behind a desk, business owners, doctors, nurses, folks like that, who they're typically having a super packed schedule. Their schedule could also be a little bit frantic as well. So maybe it's not I'm in sales. So sometimes I have days where I don't have anything going on. And other times I have days where I'm back to back or packed morning, empty afternoon, vice versa. So that's typically that's the ideal audience. And then also, I think a lot of it is around the folks who look, it's not for everybody. Like I like fitness and diet and stuff like that and learning about it. And I'm passionate about it. Not everybody is, and that's okay. But it's still like an important, it's still like an important pillar for you, just to, to live a good life and things like that. So I'd say that's the ideal audience for this book.
Wonderful. And obviously you're in the arena where you're in corporate America, you're in sales, your schedule is very dynamic. So I'm sure you notice for yourself, it's hard to keep a structured like routine for working out, for eating. And I think that's, a big reason why you wrote this book. But what kind of like detriment does it, like having a schedule like that, do for a lot of the people that you work around? And what have you seen in terms of people's health, how they've been affected by having such, crazy work hour schedules?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is that, actually it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with like Limitless Life. You read, if anybody has ever read like the 4-Hour Body with like Tim Ferriss, and there's a really interesting quote there. And I think it was from Richard Branson, but it's basically, you look at all these successful people, and like outside of time, they say that the most important thing is health. And, you look at, it's one of those things where once you don't have it, it's all you want. And I think that a lot of people will sacrifice their health in order to get ahead, whether that's making a lot of money, whether that's working a lot of hours. And that's okay to be ambitious, and it's okay to make a lot of money and things like that. But at the detriment, like what's the point of making a bunch of money and being successful in your career if like you're sick all the time, or like you get to a point where you're a little bit older and like, your body's kind of like falling apart. You're not going to be living a quality life. So, and then also you just see things around the nation today and even the globe, obesity, type 2 diabetes, preventative diseases. And there's more stuff. And look, I'm not a medical professional, but obviously like with everything going on with COVID, you talk to every health professional, what do they say? Get sleep, move around, exercise, and eat well. Really simple stuff that I think that, a lot of people don't talk about, and a lot of people take for granted once it's gone. So I think those are the things I've seen. And then, the other interesting thing too, is that what really kind of struck me and was really the trigger for this book was, I remember I was talking to a buddy of mine, his sister, and she's got 3 kids, and she works at a large financial institution. And she had this seminar with a nutritional professional who was talking about, hey, eat 6 meals a day, get 45 minutes of cardio in, and then maybe 45 minutes of workouts. And she's just like, Andrew, this is all good information. It was a great takeaway and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I've got 3 kids. I'm waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm getting them ready for school. I'm dropping them off at school. I'm going to work. I'm working there till like 5 or 6. Then I got to come back and I got to feed my kids dinner. And I don't know where I can find the time. It's not necessarily an excuse, but it kind of made me think like, wow, like everybody's talking about these, okay, I have to do something in this way, and this has to be linear. But the reality is that everybody's going to have a different lifestyle, and you can do whatever you want to do. And you should be able to mold, your diet and fitness routines around that instead of the other way around. So that kind of like really got me into, that's like another reason that kind of sparked the book. And I was like, wow, there's probably a ton of people out there like that who are looking at like, oh, I should be doing keto, or I should be doing paleo, or I should only be doing CrossFit or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if you're too dogmatic about it, then it's like, all right, well, now what are we like going for at this point, right?
Yeah. So I really want to get into that time issue, and the excuse that I don't have time for it. But what's interesting, I just heard a quote recently, and it goes something to the effect of, replace I don't have time for it with I won't make time for it. Because everything in life is a choice, right? Like if you don't make time to feed your kids, they're going to starve. Right? It's not going to be good. And if you don't take care of your body, it's gonna deteriorate. And it's so interesting how there's, US has such a problem with like obesity and people not taking care of their health. It could be for a multitude of reasons, right? Like, the diet, the fast food, portion size, all these kind of things, GMOs, whatever you wanna say. But it's interesting in nature, if an animal gets overweight or if it's sickly, like immediately the animal will get eaten, right? It will not survive in this world.
Yeah.
But that's a testament to how amazing the human body is, because we can neglect we called it a machine earlier. We can neglect it for so many years and we could still live a long life through all these medications and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if it's not functioning properly, that is the basis for who we are as human beings. If we're not running efficiently and optimally, then everything else is going to fall to shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing too that's like pretty interesting about that is also like I think we live in this world where it's like all or nothing, and I see that a lot like with folks at the gym where like they just want to go and they want to go hard on a workout and they just want to feel beat up after, or like I'm going to go do this diet and then I'm just going to go all in for the next 30 days because I'm going to try to get like ripped for summer or whatever. And then you have to kind of take a step back and just realize it's not really sustainable. And I think the other thing too is I think the advice of like, oh yeah, like we're going to go and we have to eat perfectly or we have to have these perfect bodies. It's like, no, we don't. Like, I'm not the person who is like never eating pizza or never going out for drinks with my friends or anything like that. Like, I want to do those things. You should be doing those things. Moderation is always key. But if you have like, for the most part, if you have these like pillars and you're doing certain things consistently, more so than others, it's going to be okay to like slip up and, eat like fast food, or get drunk and have a good time, like whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely important to keep that in mind, too, when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, so we kind of like went over a little bit of the challenges that people face. If we just step back from a 30,000 foot view, what is your overall philosophy on health and how to maintain it?
I think it's going to be day by day. It's just literally like consistent routines that you have and systems that you're putting in place in your day to day. Those will add up and keep you healthy. I think the main thing is that you're going to have those certain pillars of like, okay, eat your veggies, eat well-sourced food, drink water. Those things are like, no one's going to argue about that. No health professional is going to dispute that at all. But then once we start getting into like a little bit more complicated things, like, okay, well, I'm going to be looking at paleo and this is all the stuff that I'm going to be eating and that's all I should be eating. Or if I'm going to be looking at keto and that's the only type of diet that I should be doing, those things get a little bit more complicated because the reality is that everybody's different. So you kind of have to experiment and learn what works for you, what doesn't. And I'm not saying that these keto and paleo diets or low carb diets or whatever, they're not bad, right? But following that to a T, it might work for some people, but all in all, take the good things that you have from that and then make it your own. And then just follow those main things. Those pillars of like eating your vegetables, drinking water, eating well-sourced food, that's going to be good. From a fitness standpoint, moving around, it doesn't have to be a lot, just like 10 to 15 minutes a day or like doing things that you enjoy that involve like moving around. I mean, hell, even going for like a walk, that's fine. If you keep those things consistent in your life, like for the most part, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And, for those who don't have a lot of haven't done a lot of research, they're relying on other people for knowledge. And every single sector of the industry, it's so diverse, right? So yeah, like you said, there's people saying you need to go keto. Some people are going paleo, some are vegans, right? So like, how do we know what is right for our particular body?
So no one's going to like this answer. So look, you stick to the pillars, right? Like that I mentioned before. But ultimately it's going to be experimentation. And I'll give you a story about how I went through that. I mean, I used to be pretty dogmatic actually about paleo. And I used to be like, I'm not going to eat any carbs or anything like that. And I talk about it in the book. And what's super fascinating is that after experimentation, I started eating much more carbs. I feel better. I think I look better. And it's kind of weird because I was in this like, oh, okay, well, I have to just make sure I stick to that. And that's the only thing. And that's the right thing. But that's a process and that took time. And I think that like anything, when you're learning something, when you're getting better at something, it's going to take time. And I think you have to have that mentality of like, okay, you don't have to be anal about it, but you have to have a sense of like, how am I improving and what's working, what's not working. But that's just like anything in life. But I think we have, we live in a society where we just, can I take a pill that automatically I'm like there, or like, can I do something and then 30 days later, I'm like right where I want to be. But it never works like that, right? Like everybody who's doing like, if you think about people's careers too, nobody gets good at anything in like 30 days, like it takes years to get to where you're at. I mean, I've been doing sales for 10 years. Like I was not at the level that I'm at when I first started my first gig in sales. And it's like, why do we expect that like, we're going to be so good at understanding our bodies and so good at being in these healthy routines in like a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into that. Let's talk about like what expectations that we should like have once we start making these changes. Because a lot of people, like you said, they're looking for those immediate results. When I was in like I think in college, there was this thing called like like a fat burner, like Stacker 2 or something like that, where like all the commercials, like all these like really heavy people, and then they're changing into like skinny like immediately. And then I think that's what society's kind of like programmed us to be. It's like, okay, we need to have immediate results so quickly. And that's the same thing with career. Like, you're in sales, you have expectations from your bosses, you got to sell a certain amount. What are we supposed to do when it comes to our body, and how should we go into it from our mindset point of view?
Yeah. So I think the first thing is that, you need to be doing. That's one. So if you're not like actually like putting certain things in place, then you got to get those small wins, right? So probably the best way to think about it is like, I would say, like if I was talking to someone who was like very overweight and then they're telling me they're okay, I've been eating, like I eat like, I don't know, all this like bad food throughout the day. I drink a ton of like soda. I would say, continue eating what you're eating. Just forget it, right? Let's start with, how do I start eliminating soda from my diet? And let's try that for a week, like something simple. And actually it's funny because I had a friend and she was talking about, okay, well, I go every morning, I go to Starbucks and I order this like mocha frappuccino, like whatever the hell it is. And it's just like, okay, well, how do we start just like cutting that down little by little? And then like after a month, what does it look like if you're just having like a black coffee? It doesn't even need to go there. But the point being is that like, how do we get these like small wins and start building on that? And then when we're done with that, then let's start looking at like diet and things like that, because those are going to build on each other. The issue that you have with everybody when they start out a diet is that they, like I was saying before, they go in 100% and then basically after 30 days, they're exhausted and then they go binge and then they give up. And then it's just this vicious cycle going over and over and over again, versus like, let's get some small wins and keep it going from there. And then, sorry, you said something else too with the question. I just like blanked out.
Oh, I forgot to. But I think it's interesting that you mentioned like understanding where you are, right? So like I used to love having coffee, like the mocha frappuccinos. Obviously, they taste great. It's so sugary. It gives you energy. There's tons of calories. There's lots of sugar. It's probably really toxic for you. But just not only from like a health point of view, making those decisions every day to like take that down, what it's doing to your body, but also the amount of money we're spending, right? It's like $7-8 for one of those things, ice, cold, hot, whatever you want to call it. And we could be rerouting that money into eating a little bit more healthy. So a lot of people say, oh, eating organic is health, it's expensive. But when we're looking at the other choices that we're making, so really taking stock of where you are, but then also being okay with, okay, these are the decisions that I made in the past. Here I am today. What do I want to go moving forward? Like that's really the coming to awareness and being okay with where we are, rather than beating ourselves up. Oh, I let myself go. But having those thoughts and putting energy into that thinking is not going to help us get to where we want to go. Because where we are right now is just the results of former actions. And if we want to get to a better result later on, we need to start making those small little incremental changes like you talk about.
You actually like brought up a really good point too, because I think that like a lot of people feel guilty about letting themselves go or whatever. And that's actually one thing that I harp on in the book. And I think it's super important is that that's okay. Like if you're doing the right consistent things over time, you're going to be able to like let yourself go every once in a while. And I'll give you a perfect example. I was actually out in Colorado, I was out in Colorado, earlier this year. And look, I went out. I was, I had a couple bourbons with my friends. I'm eating tacos. I was just like eating whatever I wanted to eat. Actually, I had guilty pleasures, the tacos. I pretty much eat that like all the time.
Hey, who doesn't love tacos? Yeah,
I know. And they're actually not that bad for you. But the point is that like, I was eating pretty much whatever I wanted. And I was snowboarding and stuff like that. But I wasn't like I wasn't like keeping track of it, right? I wasn't worrying like, oh my God, like my diet or like, what am I going to look like when I get back? Like, who gives a shit, right? The point is that I have my routine. And then as soon as I get back to New Jersey, I'm back in that routine and then things will fall into place. And you need to be able to live your life like that. If you have that, like, if you have the routines in place, you don't have to worry about letting go. Or if you go on a week vacation and you're just like, pigging out and having a good time, like who cares? Like you should be able to do those things. And I think that's like super important for people to know, because you shouldn't feel guilty about that. Like if I'm working really hard and I've been going hard for like the past 6 months and I'm like, getting a lot of wins in terms of my business and stuff like that. And then for like 2 weeks, I just veg out and don't do anything. Like I'm not going to feel bad about that. And then like, I'll go back to work and I'll keep hitting it hard, after that. So that's kind of the mentality that people should have too. Once they kind of get the routines in place. Yeah.
And it goes to a point that you made in the book, talking about the Pareto Principle of like the 80-20 rule is like, tell us a little bit about that and how, you essentially want to create the right habits and do 80% of your energy in that. And then the 20% can be the pizza and the tacos and all this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I pretty much look at like my day and I try to tell like whoever's reading the book to look at their day, like, okay, like how many meals you're having and I go into a bunch of different like principles of how you can approach that. But I think the broad strokes are, what's my system? So, okay, my system is that for lunch, I'm probably going to have like X, Y, Z. That might look like I'll have like veggies, like, chicken or steak or insert meat here or whatever. And then I'll have like places that I go to so I can have a little bit of variety. And then I apply that to like dinner. And I'll try to make sure that I'm eating healthy for like, Monday through like Thursday. And then maybe Friday, Saturday lunches will be healthy. And then Friday, Saturday dinners, not so much. Right. And then Sunday, I'm trying to, maybe it's a split there too. So as long as I have that system in place, then most of the work's already done. And then I can, let loose, when I'm out with friends on like a Saturday or Friday or, whatever.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially for me, like when I make the worst meal decisions is like when I'm not prepared, right? When I'm starving, I'm on my way back from work and I'm like, okay, what can I get really quickly, right? And then I'll go get a falafel or something like that, which is not really a terrible thing to eat. But at the same time, if I plan out, okay, I have like 5 different places, these are certain meals that are the most healthy. And then you could choose like, one day I'll go to like Sweetgreens or, whatever it is, but having that kind of system in place so that it takes the guesswork out of making rash decisions. Because, when our blood sugar, starts dropping, we need to find something quick, maybe like a dessert or a cookie, like is attractive at the coffee shop. Right. So like, that's another thing you talk about is like, not like really snacking on bad stuff, but like having like a bunch of stuff with you at all times so that you can satisfy your hunger.
I think the other thing too, that you mentioned on is that like what I try to get ideally what you try to get people to do. And again, this takes time. Nobody wants to hear it, but it's the truth. I want to get people to a point where they're not even thinking about it. Like you shouldn't be worrying about your diet. I've actually heard, like, I have like friends that are girls and they've like met guys who are just like, I can't have that slice of pizza. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, that's insane. Like, I'm not going to feel guilty about like having like whatever type of food. Like, that's just like insanity. Like you should just be doing whatever you want and not thinking about it. And if you get to that point and you have all these things in place and these systems in place, you're going to be good to go. Like you won't have to worry about tracking calories. You don't have to worry about, okay, well, did I go to the gym today or like what have you? Cause like everything's already going to just be in motion. And look, it takes time to get there, but the point being is that you shouldn't have to think about it. It shouldn't be taking up all this like mind space, because that gets to the point where that's unhealthy from a mental perspective. If you're just constantly thinking like, oh, well, this calorie, or did I work out, or blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think that's like important to note too.
Yeah, 100%. And forming these like healthy eating habits, you talk about this, this 3-step process of cue, routine, and reward. And that was pretty interesting that I read in the book. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So whoever reads the book, definitely check out The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. It's super fascinating. And that's where I got it from. But basically, from the cue, reward habit, it's basically like, okay, like, every day at like 12 o'clock, I'm bored. Cue. And then my reward is, okay, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee, and then I get caffeinated. And then that ends up becoming a habit because I'm constantly in the, okay, now I'm bored. Now it's like, now I'm triggered to get something that's going to caffeinate me. And then now I'm going to grab my coffee. Now we can insert something like cookies, donuts. I can imagine like your stereotypical corporate office where you've got like all that stuff sitting around, and it's just like, okay, now start adding that up. Kind of like what you're saying about like, all right, well, I do $7, $8 frappuccinos like every day, or what have you. It's like, now you start adding that up across like literally 5 days a week, and you're putting that junk into your body. Like it's going to add up after a year. And it's going to be harder to get rid of that action after a year as well. And look, you don't have to like bring stuff with you all the time. I'm just saying, like, be prepared, like have an idea of like, okay, if I have that trigger, then maybe I can go grab something else. And the other thing too is just, if you're eating the right foods, you're less inclined. Like if I'm eating like foods with a lot of fiber, fat in them, healthy fats, you're going to be in a good spot where you're satiated. And that's another thing to like keep in mind too. Like if you're eating quality food, you're most likely not going to get those random hunger pangs throughout the day, versus like if you're eating like, not so great, like processed food.
Got it. And so what are some of like the healthier foods that you recommend for people, like some healthy hacks that, we can carry with us on a daily basis?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think, and when you say like healthy hacks, do you mean like I guess like places to go that?
Both actually. So yeah, places to go for actual meals, and then, snack foods.
Yeah. So it's going to be, the places to go is going to be kind of relative depending on like what area you're in. But, at the time I wrote the book, I was working in Flatiron. So I had like Sweet Greens, I had Chopped, I had Chipotle. Believe it or not, you can get a pretty healthy meal at Chipotle. I mean, I used to get like fajitas, like, beans, chicken, guac, and then boom, that's a healthy lunch. It's got a lot of good nutrients in there. And it's still fast food. So it's the places to go. And the other thing too, is what I'd have is like almonds, fruits. I was lucky enough where the kitchen at my office had a lot of like healthy snacks like that. I try to stick with like the whole foods. I'd even stick with things like peanut butter, not like a ton, or almond butter, like with a fruit, like a banana or like apple or something like that. And then if like you don't have, access to a kitchen, like, bring in like carrots, celery. It's stuff that's easy to put in a Ziploc bag. You can throw it away. It's not a hassle. You don't even need to put it in like I was going to say styrofoam, but it's not styrofoam. Why am I like a plastic container or whatever that you have to like lug around with you? Cause I hated doing that so much. Like, okay, I got to pack my lunch, and I got to bring this, I got to wash it. And it's pretty stupid, but like it annoyed the hell out of me. So it's like, okay, how do I do this so I don't have to worry about bringing this with me all the time? And I can just, put something into a Ziploc bag, eat it, be done with it, and then not have to worry about bringing it back. So it's little things like that that'll help, to keep you in line.
Yeah, for sure. And, we're entering this, warmer weather now, and, everybody has like COVID bodies from, what do they call them? Like like the COVID fat that we need to shed, right? So like eating desserts, all that kind of stuff. So now people are ready to like come out, get together, go to restaurants and stuff like that. So obviously there's a lot of pressure to like drink alcohol and eat food and all this kind of stuff. What kind of advice can you give us in terms of how to like, manage that wave and surf that, and also maintain your kind of your new programs and systems that you want to create that bring you more health into your life?
I think the biggest thing to start with is that, I mean, wherever you're at, you shouldn't really worry about it. I think the mentality you should have is getting started is better than doing nothing. And I know that's much easier said than done, but that really is the truth. I mean, you can sit here and you can beat yourself up about whatever body image, or maybe I didn't do this or that. This applies to all facets of life, right? But getting started is the most important step. So I'd say, you're going to go out there with friends and stuff like that. You want to manage that wave. Depending on like where you're at, take a survey of that and get an understanding. If you're super far behind and you've really kind of gotten into these like unhealthy things, then first step is what? Like just understanding, what are you doing? What are you putting into your body on like a weekly basis? And it's a pain in the ass to do. It really is. Like nobody wants to do that upfront work, but once you get a sense of that, then now you can start saying, all right, well, what am I going to eliminate? What am I going to cut out? And then slowly start working backward from that. And then like, when it comes to like going out with friends and drinking and stuff like that, look, I'd say do it. If you have a handle on like what you're doing on a daily basis, then you shouldn't feel guilty about having fun with friends or whatever. That's like what part of life is about. And I think the goal ultimately is, I want to have a quality, life, and I'm going to do that with a healthy body. I'm not going to sacrifice going out with friends or having an extra couple beers because, I could have gotten to 95 and I only got to 90 because I had like, that's a crazy way to think too. So that's what I'd say to everybody kind of coming out of this is that, look, get a handle on what you need to do. And don't feel guilty about, going out with friends and having drinks. Like that is a super important part. It's a super important part of our relationship with food. As humans, like we're wired and programmed to eat together, talk together, break bread together. Like that is like in our makeup as human beings. You shouldn't feel guilty about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the stress that we put on ourselves and the pressure is like, oh my goodness, like I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't eat this. That alone causes a lot of health problems because you're putting some cortisol in your body, and that's a poison, and that's not going to help you lose weight or anything like that. So like, be where you are, the majority of the time you're taking care of what you need to. And then, it's good to like have human connection and enjoy and break bread, like you said, because, hey, what is this life all about other than like spending good quality time with your quality friends and enjoying life? Hey, like life is short. Why not enjoy it? Do it in a responsible way, obviously, but not to limit yourself or pigeonhole yourself into, this particular, religion of like philosophy of how we eat and how we drink and how we do all these things.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, that being said, drinking a lot of excessive amounts of alcohol will derail you in your goals, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's another thing too, is that I talk about that in the book where, just kind of focusing on certain alcohols instead of others. Like, don't, it's not going to be a big deal if you like go for like sugary drinks or whatever. Like maybe you're on vacation, like have a pina colada, like who cares? But like, ultimately, stick with drier wines. And don't like put a lot of like sugary additives, and then just like eat before you do drink. So that way, your stomach's a little bit more full and you're not going to fall into this habit of over drinking or overdoing it, so to speak.
Yeah. Thanks, man. You really like kind of like gave us a really awesome overview of like just the philosophy behind food and choices and everything like that. Tell us a little bit about like happiness and how it comes into your life once you start making these changes and start feeling good about your body and the decisions that you're making.
I mean, I think once you start getting a grip on, the choices that you're making, you become more confident. And then I think the other thing too, is that you'll find the immediate changes are going to be your mood levels, feeling better about the day, feeling lighter, feeling more focused. You don't get those crashes. So, if you're someone who's working, especially in a in a job where you need to, perform or think, you're kind of that knowledge worker. It's going to help a ton. I mean, you'll think clearer, you'll feel more focused, you'll feel overall just in a better mood. I think those are the things that you're going to feel right off the bat, which is going to translate into better decision making, more quality into your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely. Cognitive clarity. There's so many factors towards it. If we're taking a lot of sugar in, if we're drinking a lot of caffeine, these are all things that can affect us. And we think that it's helping us in the short term. Okay, I'm getting an energy boost, but like, it's very simple to exchange that. It takes a little bit of time to just start drinking green juices, getting the nutrients that your mind, your body needs, and then you're able to perform better than you would if you were just drinking, caffeine all day. So, these are like kind of longer term, goals and ideas, but like the things that we put into our body obviously is going to affect our output and our performance in every aspect of life. So thank you so much for talking about all this and kind of giving us an overview of like what your book is all about. And it's really cool. I love the fact that, you're offering it. And I know that you mentioned if people sign up for your newsletter, you're going to give them a free copy. Is that correct?
That is 100% true. So yeah, they can, you can follow me on at Busy People Build Healthy Habits on Instagram. There's a link there. And yeah, I can send you over, I guess we can put it in the show notes, just a link to sign up for the book. I've also got some free video content in there as well. And if you sign up, I'll be writing a second book that'll be geared more towards fitness habits. So, whoever signs up from your audience, they'll be on the list for a beta version. So they can get free access to that before it goes out on Amazon.
Wonderful. That's so generous of you. Thanks so much, buddy. Hey, so a couple of questions I want to ask you as we wrap up. Why do you think that you came here as Andrew Kobylarz to planet Earth? What did you want to experience here?
So I think that I was actually reflecting on this question a lot. I'm not sure. It's weird, man. It's like, I don't know necessarily how I feel about like purpose, like specifically. I think that everybody's got like, maybe like innate gifts and stuff like that. I mean, ultimately I want to build and create, and then with those things, help other people, be in loving relationships, and, experience everything that I'm interested in. I'm interested in a lot of stuff. And then kind of see where it takes me from there. I know that's a really ambiguous answer. But I think, yeah, a big part of life is just kind of enjoying the journey. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense, in terms of the answer to that question.
Absolutely. There's no right or wrong answers.
Yeah. You failed. You're off the podcast.
And last question is, what does God or spirituality mean to you, and what role, if any, does it play in your life?
So yeah, I don't really ascribe to any specific religion or anything like that. I do believe that there is a higher power. I do believe that, ultimately you read any religious scripture, there's tried and true themes, right? It's love yourself, love others, give, treat others well. Those are kind of the main tenets that I try to live by. And yeah, I mean, as much of that as I can do, like give back and stuff like that. I think generally we kind of take for granted that, hey, we got a lot of good stuff going on in our life and it kind of just becomes all about you. But it's pretty crazy. Like, I've gotten emails about like, hey, this is like super helpful advice and stuff like that. I didn't get any money for it. It just felt good to like help someone out, So, and that could be like just going to charity or whatever. So that's kind of how I think about God and, how that drives like actions in my life.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Andrew. It's so nice to like tap into your limitless mindset. And, the one common thread for everyone that I interview is they're all about contribution and helping other people along this journey. So I honor you and I thank you very much. And I encourage everybody to download that book, sign up for Andrew's newsletter. And is there any other places that we can find you?
Yeah. So I'll be setting up a new newsletter on Substack. So I'll give that to you after so that you can have that in the show notes. And then you can also check out Quora. I've got some articles there. And yeah, man, just if your audience, can check out my stuff, would love them to read it all. And I'll be happy to give him that book, and then also the upcoming one as well.
Appreciate you, brother. Have a great day. Thanks.